Good morning, everyone. All right, this morning was a gorgeous morning, and we're going to review it. Give me just 1 second. Let me go back to market open. All right, we will just dive right into it. It was an absolutely glorious day today, and it all started with the pre-market analysis. The pre-market analysis was a pretty big deal today. So, upon first glance, when you're looking, and type in chat, you guys are able to see my screen and hear me, right? I assume that's the case. Let me just check real quick. Okay, good. Okay, so first glance, I'm leaning bullish. We have multiple oscillations. This looks like a bullish flag, right? Bullish consolidation. I start marking out my pivots. We'll have a decent handful of pivots to the upside. Here on ES. Same thing on NQ. Now, as far when it comes to actually breaking the supply, I thought NQ looked a bit better until pretty much market open happened. As far as it goes on this very candle, ES looks a little bit better. So overall, I'm leaning bullish. My price targets are 25,429, which is one tick above this pivot here. And then ES 7,000.5. Right, so I'm looking for these supply clusters to break to the upside. However, and this was a really big part of the day, when I was marking the pivots below, I found that, at least on the NASDAQ, these two pivots are very close together. Not only are they close together, they're only half a point apart. 2 ticks. And on NQ, that's pretty much a perfect double bottom. So that's a really big deal. So essentially, my pre-market analysis was I'm bullish. I'm bullish for these supply clusters to break. However, if at any point we invalidate a majority of this bounce, a majority of this run, and we get down to roughly here, I'm going to be in puts for this level. And maybe, hopefully this level as well. But mostly this level right here. Which means if we come down here and we don't break this level, I'm probably going to have a red day. Just forewarning, right? But that's the plan. Now, if we jump onto the 1 minute, you can really see how close these pivots are. And these are solid pivots. Like these are pointy and whatnot. These are solid pivots. Now, at open, I'm planning on calls. And we open like this. ES is a lot stronger than NQ. I wanted to enter, but we got a really big selling wick. If the first half of the candle invalidates at least half of this selling wick, I'm going to be triggered into calls, ideally for this PT. The problem is, though, it depends how strong we are, right? If we invalidate another, half of this wick technically, but we put in a lot of selling wicks and then NQ's weak and down here, I'll fill half size with plans to average down. Otherwise, I'd like to average up if this entire selling wick invalidates. Well, that happened on the next candle. I did end up filling my calls. That candle was a rough ride. And here was kind of my stop loss. Not really, though, because I filled half size. NQ looked good, but look how big these wicks are. Maybe hard to see. All the way up here to all the way down here. Freaking massive wicks, right? A lot of indecision. I kept thinking I was going to average up because it kept trying to invalidate the selling wick, then invalidating it, or invalidating its progress, right? It made progress invalidating the selling wick, and then the candle closed, it closed red. At this point, the S&P ES actually flipped weaker than NQ. Actually, NQ got a green candle here, ES did not. And we did have lower lows and buying wicks here in demand. So I'm expecting us to bounce. And we did for a second. And we dumped to the downside. Now, keep in mind, I'm only half size on my entry in this. But what I was looking at, I'm like, okay, ES looks like it flipped a little bit weaker, but we are dumping. This is a very solid demand. I would like to average down right at this demand, and I'd have a very tight stop loss below. And roughly right around here, if we break through this second demand, get to right around here, I'll take puts for the demand break. That's that's the entire plan. We bounce, we invalidate pretty much the entire thing. I think we're going to go back up, and I get ready to average up on the trade. And we put in a huge selling wick. Now, this is where the issues start. ES, a lot weaker than NQ. NQ starts bouncing like I thought it would. ES does not. NQ didn't quite get to the demand, so my finger's kind of in between stop loss or average down. I don't really know. And then this candle happens. I stop out on this candle. So I did take a bigger percent loss. I don't remember what the percent loss was. I think it was like 30-ish percent, 30 something percent. It was a bigger percent loss, but I did average down. So that was a half size loss right there. So not a very big one at all. The same as like a 15 or 16% full size loss, which is nothing. But immediately, I told you guys before the market even opened, if we invalidate most of this move, I'm in puts. And that's exactly what happened. Now, because it was so fast, you know how to stop out of a trade and then quickly fill puts. I mean, if you were in the live trading with me this morning, you knew that I entered. But otherwise, there was like a 5-second delay, like a few second delay after I entered puts. Because the way I alert, as you guys know, is what I think I'm going to enter. I tell you guys the plan, if I have a plan. And then I type out that contract in my channel. And then if I fill the trade, I fill it. And then within a second, I edit the price to whatever I filled or close to where I filled, and then I send it. It all takes like 2 seconds. In this case, I didn't even have those puts typed out because I didn't expect this huge candle. So there's a very small delay there. But anyway, so that's the plan. So I filled the QQQ puts. Looking back on it, ES was weaker than the NASDAQ, right? But this was such a big price target for me, I just filled the NASDAQ. And it was freaking beautiful, guys. NQ ended up picking up its weakness. It was just glorious. Now we bounced, so if you missed the fill and you put a limit order, you did not miss this trade, which was really nice as well. Boom, there you go, I sold. Now, even though I sold, I'm still kind of leaning bearish. As you can see, NQ put in a big buying wick. ES did not. But this was a really big trade. I got 55% gains on this trade. And then we end up bouncing. Or not quite yet. We get a little bit lower. It got to like 60-something percent. Realistically, you got like 50% on it. And then we bounce. NQ puts in a bullish liquidity sweep. Huge green candle. Twice the size of this red candle. ES has a much smaller one. And I'm kind of thinking, okay, well, it's a much riskier and more aggressive trade. So I was pretty light size on it. I took light SPX puts, actually a little less than half size. Here, planning that ES remains weak and we continue down to this pivot. I'm okay adding, but ideally my stop loss. It's a crazy risk to reward trade. Well, right after I fill that, ES decides to start flipping strong, starting on this candle. You can see that the green candle completely overpowered the red candle here. Not so much on NQ. And then you hear me start complaining in my channel. The first thing I said is I said, ew, ES flipped stronger right after I filled. Not sure I'll add my second half. I said that on this green candle right here. I filled it right before that, right? I actually filled it like on this green candle here. So the trade was green. I filled a 3.2. And then on this candle, I sent out a message and I said, ES is way in all caps stronger now. Leaning towards not adding and just taking half size loss looks terrible. And I said, I did not expect ES to flip stronger as NQ's the one who swept all of the liquidity, not ES. And then my next message in my channel on this candle was very low odds of this trade working out now as a result. Feel free to trim or sell to de-risk. And that's exactly what I did. I closed out most of the trade, literally besides 2 contracts, or 1 contract. Yeah, it was 1 contract. And then I added very light size QQQ puts just in case. So I trimmed it down to whatever 2 contracts would be worth, only like a $500 trade or $600. But half of that was actually in QQQ. So a few hundred in each, like a contract in SPX and like 4 QQQ puts. So really, really small size. And yeah, it looked terrible. And then right here I said, and great trim, this strength is atrocious. QQQ puts look okay. I actually said that beforehand. And then I said, was it right here? 750. Was it on this candle? Okay, it was like right at the start of this candle. I said, ES looks so bullish right now. Great trims to de-risk. And then I stopped out on this candle. So pretty much from the second I got in that trade, I was doing nothing but complaining about the trade and de-risking. So this ended up being a really, really small loss for me because it looked so freaking atrocious. Like it was freaking terrible. Like ES was not supposed to flip stronger. What I was kind of betting on is NQ will make one more lower low. By the time NQ gets to here, ES is weaker, so ES will be roughly here, a great place to trim. And then on top of that, if ES gets down to here, it's probably just going to get to the pivot. That was kind of my thought process. Only half of it worked out. And when I saw that NQ made a really nice lower low, and ES didn't even invalidate like half of the bounce, that hypothesis was invalidated pretty much from the start because that weakness was a huge part of that hypothesis. So a small loss there, unfortunately. So I'm lighter green on the day now. But this looked pretty bullish. I mean, this is super bullish liquidity sweep on NQ. ES is back to being strong. I don't know how it's going to test the supply, so I wait one more candle after this one, and I fill calls here. I alert SPX calls, and I had some mild issues alerting today because I had to move to the free live trading channel in my community because the premium channel didn't work for some reason. But I accidentally filled contracts that were too cheap. I filled at like 1.9. And the next contracts up were at 3.1 or something. So I quickly changed those contracts and alerted them. I wasn't in the 3.1 contracts though. I was in the cheaper ones, but I'm not going to alert cheap contracts. So I was just heavier. It's much heavier in these contracts. So anyways, alerted the trade. This is what I'm looking for. Half size, but I averaged up when more of this move invalidated. And that did happen right here, right? So I kind of scaled into it. And yeah, this was a huge win. Huge win here, was going for 7,000. Sold everything when this happened, which in looking back on it, I could have easily left a runner because now I have the last bit of my pre-market analysis to play out. I'm bullish for not only NQ to get high of day, but both of these pivots to get taken out. The 25, 429 PT on NQ right here. I'm looking for that. So I said, I told you guys in my chat, ESPTs hit. Only PTs left are the NQ pivots to the upside. The final one is at 25, 929. I only have a small runner. If we bullishly consolidate or pull back, I will re-add calls. And then right when we started dipping, and by the way, the calls already hit 100% gains there. Right when we started dipping here, I said, I like this dip by here on at QQQ calls. If we start bouncing, I'll add some. We dipped a little bit further, and then we started bouncing. I entered QQQ calls. Not super heavy on them, because the risk to reward sucks and I need room to scale in. But this is pretty much what the trade was. I think I had a little bit better of a fill. You know, something right here, I don't remember. Now, I told you guys in chat, I said, we'll scale in if we keep chopping bullishly, not exposing myself to much. I said, I would be very surprised if we don't get a new high of day. And I said, this bull pennant looks so perfect on NQ that it looks a bit italicized, too good to be true, which is mildly concerning. Right, so this bull pennant was looking so freaking good on NQ that it was actually kind of concerning. And this beauty happened, which was the cherry on top for our day. I pretty much sold everything here and on this candle. And that was it for my day. You got 125% on SPX calls if you held. And it's 72% on the QQ calls. And that's, you're not making anything less than 50 to 60% on those Q calls because the entire gains were in one candle. So 2 losses today. One of the losses was half size. The other one was even less than half size because it looked so bad beforehand. So that's really good discretionary analysis. And then the wins were freaking beautiful. You know, I wish the wins would have been bigger size, but the wins were much, much bigger than the losses. So win rate wasn't anything special this morning. But as far as executing my pre-market analysis, it was pretty much flawless. The only trade that was technically avoidable was this SPX trade here. but I thought it was an okay gamble. And plus, my size and my risk exposure to that reflected. I told you guys when I alerted, I said this is a much riskier and more aggressive trade, in that I was in lower size. But it was a pretty damn good morning this morning. Very good morning. So type in chat. Do any of you guys have any questions regarding any of the analysis from this morning? Nope, everyone's good. All right, well, I'm continuing to not review my futures trading because I'm doing all that on my own. I have my future strategy update session in a little over 3.5 hours from now. I think it's 3.5 hours from now. Yeah, it is. So I'm going to be quiet. You guys are going to hear much from me, and I'm just going to be working on that. It's not going to be done, but I'm going to update you guys on what I'm doing to evolve it, stuff that I've found so far, and ideally inspire you guys and teach you guys how to do it for yourself, for your own strategies, because most of you guys are trading futures. So if I don't see you then, though, and I don't see you for the study session tonight, which I couldn't do last night because I was preparing for my future stuff, I'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. Remember, I'm going to be gone on Thursday and Friday, right? So this week's a shorter week for me. So we're going to be lighter on events. I'm not going to be here Thursday and Friday. So do not blow your freaking accounts while I'm not gone. You guys watch me put up, especially mostly with the futures trading. You guys watch me put up with a lot of crap and very unfortunate events. Missing out on green trades because my order doesn't fill, and just you guys watch me experience everything that you guys experience and a little bit more. Watch the way I react to those unfortunate events and do the same. Just trade like me, right? Don't let any one unfortunate scenario open the door to you blowing your account because you're unwilling to accept a loss, or a trade that was supposed to be green but you missed your sell and now it's red and you can't stop out. Now you're averaging down, right? None of that action, especially while I'm gone. All right, sweet. I'll post this on YouTube. I'll ping you guys when it's posted. And like I said, if I don't see you in the strategy building session tonight, I'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning to hopefully finish off my week on a very strong note, because today was a fantastic day. No, I'm not going to be gone next week. Just Thursday and Friday, and then I don't really plan on missing it. Maybe one, but I don't plan on missing a day until freaking September. So yeah, just Thursday, Friday. That's it. All right. I will see you guys later. If I don't see you, have a blessed rest of your day.